This is RuggaMatrix International, episode 182, New Year, New Look, and welcome to 2014. RuggaMatrix is proudly brought to you by Strike, Australia's leading provider of Bluetooth car kits, reversing cameras and GPS tracking systems. So get legal just like the crack driving team at RuggaMatrix and grab a Strike Cradle for $149. Without a hands-free solution, you're risking a $433 fine and 4 points. Go to strike.com.au to get 10% off. We love our coffee too and love mybean.com.au. Coffee delivered straight from the roaster to guarantee the freshest brew. mybean.com.au sells at roasters prices. Yes, hello and welcome to RuggaMatrix International. Juro Senior host, and we're coming to you from beautiful Maroubra Beach, just outside the RuggaMatrix studios. We're doing a bit of a refit at the moment, so it's going to be pretty spectacular by the time that's done, and you'll see that in the next couple of weeks. Well, I hope you've had a great summer in the Southern Hemisphere and a great winter in the Northern Hemisphere. There's so much to come in Heineken Cup, Six Nations, and in the South, the start of Super Rugby. So we're looking forward to that in a couple of weeks. Now, we haven't seen him for a while, and he looks a bit like Santa Claus. We used to. Come on in, Mark Cashman, Sean Down, and I guess this would have been horrific when you first did it, but Mark Cashman, talk us through this haircut.
Well, Brock, you know what it's like. It's a new year. You've got to have the new look, and this is the new look. I'm not sure how long the beard's going to last, but listen, I'll tell you what, love the buzz cut. It's absolutely fantastic. Takes you 20 seconds to sort yourself out in the morning, and just away you go. But anyway, that's the way it is. But my hair's going to grow back. I can't say that about you, can I?
You can't. But once you get used to shaving, you never go back. Special shout out to our friends in the Northern Hemisphere as you prepare for some really epic matches and been enjoying it on Satanta Sport here in Australia. And Casho, we're about to head into a serious summer preparation for the winter sport that is rugby. Pretty damn hot down here in Australia. And the Waratahs, we're just looking at some vision now, Casho, of them training the other day. A couple of them came back, including the one and only Benn Robinson, training for the Waratahs as they did the infamous Coogee Hills.
Yeah, listen, you know, they've all been about hard work and putting the effort in pre-season. It sort of sets you up for the season, gives you that mental strength in many cases. And you know, the man who we're talking to, Benn Robinson, puts it in there, does it real tough. But you can see that there's a bit of science happening with the TARS preparation. I do know for a fact that they've been using the hyperbaric chamber at Scots College of late under the direction of Hayden Masters, their strength and conditioning boss. So listen, it's all coming along quite well. They're putting in the hard yards. Super Rugby, as you know, Bronk, from your time there at media manager at the Waratahs, you need to hit the ground running. Early wins are worth probably two later on in the season, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to see Wycliffe Palu training the house down. He should be right for round one. Stephen Hall's great story. We spoke to him on this show about that radical surgery on his Achilles. He's doing well as well. Looking to catch up with him again very shortly as he fights for a contract.
Interesting thing about Stephen Hall's, a lot of people thought he was absolutely gone. Professional rugby was beyond him. He came back late last year, played a key role for the Galloping Greens in the Shoot Shield semi-finals, but has actually put in a lot of hard work. And he's one of the great things about Stephen Hall's at this point for the Waratahs is the leadership that he showed pre-Christmas, and I think that's been pretty important in pulling this group together. All the Wallabies are back in town, the big dogs are back in town now, but listen, that important part of laying the foundations before Christmas, Stephen Hall's led the way in many aspects for the Waratahs, so good luck to him.
All right, so let's hear from Benn Robinson now, and he was speaking to Russell Fairfax.
Look, are you impressed with the form of the fitness form of the Waratahs back in a session like this?
Yeah, look, it's amazing. You know, the players have been here since late last year, and they've been ripping really hard. You know, we're struggling to keep up with them, which is good. You know, it's good to come back in and see those New South Wales boys training really hard. You know, working really hard for each other, and I think it's for us. It's easy to slip straight back in.
I say this with a smile on my face. You think the coach is clever enough to put you up against the opposition for positions in this team just to let you know where you are?
Yeah, look, you can definitely see that. It pushes you that much harder knowing that you're your opposition or your opposing team is right there next to you, pushing you pretty hard. So it's healthy having that competitive, hostile nature. I think it brings out the best in all players.
Are you pleasantly surprised where you're at?
Yeah, look, I'm pretty happy where I'm at. I was due back on the week after this, but I came back in early and trained hard with the boys. It's great being back in this environment. I think I was missing it, and I wasn't going to do much at home, so coming and ripping with the boys.
Being back, what's the vibe like? Can you sense that there's something special maybe this year?
Yeah, look, it's a very special vibe. I think right from day one, you can really feel a sense of ownership of the team. The players really working hard for each other, and that's what you want out of a team. But I think over the next few weeks we'll build really hard and bring it nice and tight up.
Yeah, you've got some good trials coming up, especially the one at home against the Auckland Blues. They'll have Benji Marshall, Ma Nonu and a host of other internationals. What a great game to watch.
Yeah, look, we're not looking too far ahead, I think. There's still a few games before that. We're heading down to Albury, playing some strong game down there. So, at the moment it's just toughing it out up these hills.
And look, are you going to be available for all the games, or are you going to, as the coach said, he might bring you in a bit slowly because of the spring tour?
Yeah, I think that's a plan. A little bit slower than the guys have been here for a while. Hopefully, I'd like to play 2 out of the 3 games and get some game fitness under me. There's nothing like getting out there and ripping in.
All right, there is Benn Robinson, Mark Cashman, and I've got to say, interesting for Ben. He's copped a few slaps around the chops throughout his career about being dropped, firing him up to play well again. I've got to say I felt very sorry for him because I thought he was our best player, one of our best players, and certainly the best in the front row against the Lions, and then Ewan McKenzie dropped him.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm not sure if Ben's over it or not, but listen, he's got plenty of good football left in him. He's yet to go to a Rugby World Cup, which is one of the startling things about his career record, and is racking up the tests left, right and centre. As far as I'm concerned, he's one of the first props picked in any squad going around, whether that's at Eastwood or at the Waratahs or the Wallabies. So, listen, I'd have him on board just for the experience, and you need that experience.
Well, you're a wily old front rower, and obviously the game's moved on a bit from your time. But, I mean, does Benn Robinson need to be ripped up with a washboard stomach that may impact the way he plays in the front row when it comes to scrummaging time? I mean, Australia laments the ability to compete in that area, particularly now the scrums are coming together and it's all about the scrummaging, not the initial engagement.
It's interesting. I found being a 6-foot prop, the Cat's probably a little bit shorter than me. Always found those little guys to be very, very difficult to work with at scrum time, and the scrum is going to be a significant factor throughout Super Rugby. You can see it in the Northern Hemisphere as we speak throughout those Heineken Cup quarterfinals, the Aviva Premiership, the Robo Direct Pro 12, all those sorts of things. You can see the influence of the scrum. Good scrummagers, people with good technique, being able to put themselves in the right position, they're going to be significant and they're going to win games with scrums, I think, at certain stages of Super Rugby.
And, of course, Australia will come together later in the year for their test matches against France. That'll be interesting because you never know what you're going to get with France. But I think it'll be interesting to see how the Waratahs members come together with the Brumbies players and the Reds, considering Ewan cracked the whip last year. With discipline in Ireland. We all know about the fact that a few guys out were having a couple of beers during midweek. They weren't, overly crazy with that, but Ewan decided to drop those players. A lot of those were Waratahs players, and under the leadership of Ben Mowen, it could have been said that maybe there were a couple of different camps. I don't know how things are going to go, but what do you reckon about that?
It's interesting, isn't it? Ewan has every right to call the discipline call on this one. And I think in many ways he actually did the right thing because it's his regime. He had to draw a line in the sand. But listen, there's no doubting that one of the more talked about games this year is going to be Waratahs v Brumbies. And, there is a bit of feeling there. I know that for a fact. And the boys are going to rip in and there'll be plenty of sledging. And let's hope that it's just a great game. And listen, that's what this sport's all about, isn't it? It's competition. It's sledging the other guy that's better than you, trying to put him off his game and going from there. So that's going to be pretty much the theme when the Tars take on the Brumbies in the early stages of Super Rugby.
I know, and it might be a question about whether the team is harmonious or not. I can tell you for a fact also, Casho, that even in the great days of the Wallabies, The Brumbies dead set hated the Waratahs and vice versa, and Queensland hated New South Wales. So New South Wales were hated on two fronts. And I can tell you what, when they came together as Australia, they still did the job when it came to playing on the paddock. So, yeah, maybe not everyone gets on, and I think that's absolutely true. Not everyone gets on, and they're not going to share a beer together or a coffee when they're on tour and camp together. However, when it comes to performing on the paddock, these guys are pretty professional and will get on with the job.
Well, that's exactly right, Bronk. It's any workplace, really, isn't it? You don't have to love the bloke that you work with, and you could say that about me, perhaps. But that's certainly not the case. We enjoy each other's company. We enjoy working together. But you don't have to get on to make a good fist of a job, and the job is winning rugby games.
All right, so we spoke about the Waratahs. Now let's head down to the Brumbies. And just before Christmas, I managed to travel to Canberra and catch up with the new coaching regime there. And that, of course, is Laurie Fisher and Stephen Larkham in the wake of the departure of Jake White. So here they are together. First up, we're going to hear from Stephen Larkham. There was no doubt you're being, prepared to be the Brumbies coach long term down the track, but does Jake leaving's obviously accelerated things? Do you feel like you've been left in a lurch a bit, and maybe behind the eight ball a bit? What's the feeling there in your progress?
No, I think the team now, it's all about the team at this stage. So personally, I guess another year would have been good. But I had been thinking about it ever since sort of Jake mentioned it to me. And I guess a little bit more time spent preparing for it would have been nice. It came around all of a sudden, and we've had to learn as we go, basically, and make decisions as we go. And I guess that's sort of started, 4 weeks ago. And we sort of got things rolling pretty quickly. Laurie's a very experienced head coach. He's been head coach here before, and he's got international experience as well. So between the two of us, we put the program in place pretty quickly. But ideally, I think there's certain aspects that I probably could have spent another year honing or experimenting with. But I'll take it as it comes and push on. I think we're still sort of in the infancy of myself and Laurie, and I think the team are still coming to grips with how it's all going to work. But certainly over the next month, we want to put everything in place so that come 6th of January, which is when we get the majority of our players back, everything is seamless.
Laurie, you're behind the eight ball a bit with Jake's sudden departure?
No, not at all. Like I'd say a good percentage of what we do at training and tactic we've developed over the 2 years anyway. The things that we were looking to take ahead this year were probably things that Bernie and I had discussed and worked on. So I don't think in terms of how we play our rugby, we're behind the eight ball. We're down a coach at the moment, which is difficult. So you've got two guys who are doing a lot of work, and there's a lot of off-field things that Jake was involved in, and I guess just his relationship with the lads and his off-field direction. So again, trying to, when you're a coach down at this point in time, balance all those things out.
I mean, you've played in a number of teams now, coached for some time now. You do sort of have to have do you have to have a single focal point at the top of the tree in the coaching department?
As a player, you need to know who's selecting you, I think. You need to know who to be wary of. And it's quite simple down here at the moment. So I'm selecting the backs and Laurie's selecting the forwards. We've made that pretty clear to the players. And realistically, I think that's the only way it can really work. If Laurie was head coach and forwards coach, he'd probably miss elements of backs play in terms of being able to select players for different reasons. And vice versa, if I was the one making the decision, Laurie spends so much time with the forwards, I'd probably miss some crucial little aspects of their game that would, push them for selection or not. So yeah, I think it's a good mix because we do get on so well off the field.
You guys, as characters, would you say you're different sorts of people? Because for an outsider looking in, you might say that, but what about the personalities and their differences?
Yeah, very different. I'd be, I guess, certainly at training time, I'd be fairly loud and intense and always looking for energy and effort out of training. Bernie, as most guys would say, is probably a little bit more laconic, a little bit more laid back, but he's well prepared. And I think one thing that he has grown in his coaching is that capacity to be more demanding of players on the training pitch. So I think there's a nice balance there of voice and somebody who's probably a little calmer.
We are, yeah. I guess on the field and off the field, quite different, but we get on very well. And the combination of coaching has worked really well.
We're constantly talking about the things that we want to develop, the things we might need to change, reviewing our training, and always looking for those little things that we're trying to develop or just to get better at what we're trying to get better at. So again, the new structure doesn't change at all. That's what we've been doing for 2 years. That's what we'll do for the next 2 years. And most of the changes have been with regard to just things off the field.
When you're on the paddock, are you the boss, Laurie the boss? How does it work out there on the field?
It depends on the session. So Laurie's impact and breakdown. I do attack. We both sort of overlook one another's work. Off the field we have robust discussions about options and where we need to take the team and all that sort of stuff. And most of that's been done now. We're in agreement as to where we need to take the team and we're on that track already. On the field it really comes down to who's running the session. That's the person who's the most vocal. The other person out there is overseeing and chipping players or quiet word in the other coach's ear.
And again, a lot of my focus is about simple things, particularly with the forward pack, about carrying strong, about winning shoulders. Like there's no real science to it, but if that's all you do, then you're going to find it hard to break an opposition down. So it's really about, from my perspective, about working on the simple things and making sure that we're strong and we're aggressive and that we give ourselves the best chance of winning contact, and Stephen taking that as the base model. Then what can we grow on top of that to make sure that we're able to open sides up a little bit? So I think we've got different views in terms of how that's done, so it's complementary, I'd say.
Does Stephen often ask you for advice about the coaching? Obviously he's been a great player, but it's a different realm, isn't it, to coach? So does he ask you about the finer arts of coaching? Oh
no, look, I don't think it's about giving advice. It's about just, we all learn as we go along. I learn off him, he learns off me, we learn off other people. So I don't think it's sitting down and seeking advice. It's you see people doing things and you think, geez, I could incorporate that into what I'm doing, either in the way people do things, in the way they set up their drills, might be a tactic, a technique. So any coach is constantly on that learning curve, and it's the same here. It's not sitting down necessarily seeking information. It's about seeing it and taking it on board.
Is it a case of that getting to the final, the next step has to be to win it? So I guess if you don't win it next year, do you regard it as a failure? How are you looking forward now that things have changed with Jake's departure and things aren't exactly how you had planned moving into 2014?
Well, I guess the plan was probably to keep Jake for another year or another couple of years, and we were certainly building. It was a 4-year plan initially to try and get to the finals, and we weren't expecting to get to the finals in the first year, and we narrowly missed out. We weren't expecting to get to the final in the second year. And we narrowly missed out on winning the competition. So we'll keep pushing forward. I mean, the focus for the team is to win the championship, is to be the best Super Rugby team in the competition. So nothing's changed there, and that's the way we're approaching this season. We've got a good group of players, so the playing group itself hasn't changed substantially. Not only that, but they're a really enthusiastic, enjoyable group to be around. They understand the culture here, they understand the winning culture, so we haven't lost any of that. And the goal for the team at the moment is definitely to win the competition.
Has that made it easier for you that you've got a bunch of professional players that sort of, to a certain extent, can operate on their own?
Yeah, I guess we had a relatively young side 2 years ago. Average age was 22, so I'm assuming the average age is now going to be 24. But they're sort of evolving in their rugby career now to the point where they do have to take more responsibility, more accountability on the field, and for their actions off the field. I think we've been through a number of off-field incidences over the last couple of years, and I think the team has learnt from that as a whole, and we realise that the two are connected. and it's good to know that the players know that. Yeah, they're a very mature group, led very well by Ben Moen. And we have seen the most out of them. You know, 2 years ago we had 3 Wallabies, last year we had 3 Wallabies, and now we've got 8 or 9, including a couple of injuries, you know, up around 10. So they have developed extremely well, and that's because they are a hard-working, dedicated group.
Stephen's sort of tenure in the game, where he's been such a great player for so long, does that also help when looking at recruitment and other things like that?
Yeah, look, I think people who have genuine clout in the game, and Jake was one of those. Obviously, he's a World Cup winner, and Stephen's as a player, as a World Cup winner. So I think there's a lot of players who would be thinking it's a great opportunity to learn off one of the greats of the game. So definitely, I think that it is a potential recruitment advantage. But in the end, your whole program's got to run well. You've got to be successful. People have to see that they can come, particularly to Canberra, and be better footballers, advance up the ranks. So there's no one thing that gets players here, but certainly he's got a lot of clout in the game, and deservedly so.
How do you approach the off-field discipline? Obviously, you were a player, and you would have seen a lot of your teammates get into trouble, and may have covered up for. We've all sort of maybe helped out a player here and there who was probably in the firing line, but a man around the 40 years of age looking after these kids, I mean, how do you approach it? Is it business-like? Do you understand that people might go through trouble as a youngster? Do you cut up some slack? I mean, are you very strict? How do you see it?
We basically treat them as adults, so they're no longer kids. Treat them as adults, and you know, the group of guys that we've got at the moment are very mature. Understanding the opportunity that presents to these players is very important, and respecting that opportunity, I think, is the message that we try and drive home to these guys. Generally, we give them one chance to make a mistake in a certain area, and then if it happens again, then you need to discuss it with them. But there's no fines, or there's no harassing them or anything like that. It's a matter of treating them like adults and understanding that people make mistakes, and we get on and fix it. We fix it and move on.
Did you find it difficult to, as a great player, articulate how players should play the game as you see it? You know, I remember seeing someone like David Campese came to a training session once and just said, "Just do what I do." You know, that's obviously something that good players have difficulty in doing when they become a coach. How did you find that?
Yeah, that's the challenge, I think, understanding that the players of the current era are different sorts of rugby players. Understanding that it's easy to see it yourself. So the challenge is to try and work out how to make the individual perform best. Sometimes that's a matter of talking to them, sometimes it's guiding them on the field, guiding them off the field. But the challenge really is understanding the player and trying to get the most out of the player, not necessarily the way I would have done it, but what suits them best.
How do you think Stephen's been able to bridge that gap? Because you've got to be able to articulate. It's not just say, "Look, I did it, now you do it."
Yeah, well, because he's an articulate person, I think. So it's not just natural ability. Like, he had to work hard on his game, and he just didn't turn up and be the footballer that he was. He started off as a halfback, so I think he found what works for him over a period of time, and then got better at that. So again, it's an understanding that it's not about doing what I did, it's about doing what the team requires and the style of play that we play. So, I mean, I don't think he has any problem there. He's an intelligent guy, he understands rugby, he's constantly looking for new ideas, so things just progress from there.
When you're out there in the paddock, do you enjoy that as much, yelling instructions, and when the guys are nailing moves that you've prepared for them to do? Is that as satisfying to you as when you played?
Yeah, it can be. There were a couple of occasions over the last 2 years where I've been on the sideline and I've been carried away. You know, I've jumped in the air with my fist pumped and felt like I was a part of it. And I think that's the beauty of being on the sideline as a coach, as a head coach. Being on the sideline, being involved in the atmosphere of the ground and the emotion of the game. You know, when something good comes off, and it's not necessarily something that I've told them to do, but you know, you're part of the team really, and when something good happens, a try is scored or a great tackle or something like that, you're really part of it, and yeah, you certainly feel like you contributed to it, but you also feel like you're part of that team.
Is this long term for you now, Stephen Larkham, rugby coach, through to retirement?
Well, what is retirement? I don't know. I've already had one retirement from rugby.
Although you're still playing every now and then.
Yeah, still got a game coming up actually over in Dubai in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
For me, yeah, I guess it's a medium-term goal at this stage to stay in coaching. Yeah, you can't really look much further than that because it is a transient job. You do move around a lot. I'd like to believe that we can change that idea that coaches have to move on or head coaches have to move on after 3 years. I like the idea of potentially having a fair bit of time with one team and trying to make it develop.
You're both really big on the fact that you've got to put back into the Canberra, the ACT region.
Yeah, look, we will have a massive focus in the next 2 years of re-establishing quality pathways in Canberra. Things have been different over the last few years. ARU have run their gold programs. They've taken the lead on academies with the National Academy. So now it's all back in the lap of the provinces. So it gives us a really good opportunity to work with our pathways from 14s through to 20s and through to our development squad and beyond. So looking forward to that opportunity to develop our local players, giving them the opportunity to become Brumbies in the future, which there probably hasn't been over the last few years. Do
you think when you organise your play, you were genius when you played, and the moves of the Brumbies are synonymous the world over? There's a lot of movement before the gain line. How much of that do you want to see in the game, and how much do you want to leave up to the players to play what's in front of them on the night?
It's about half and half, I think. So coming up with a bit of a plan before the game is very important. But again, they could change their defence. They could change their tactics before you actually run out there, and you're basing it on the couple of games that you've seen beforehand. So you certainly have to come up with a bit of a plan. But most of the time and most of our training is about allowing the players to see the best option in front of them, or contributing to their development in terms of when they get on the field, are they then capable of seeing the right option and taking the right option? So there's a mix of both. I think the important thing is understanding that there's one side of rugby which is running rugby, flashy rugby, throwing the ball around, running it from everywhere, and I think there's another side which is winning rugby, and you've got to find a balance. You've got to keep the crowd entertained, because then the crowd can certainly lift the team in the slower moments of the game. But at the same time, you've got to win the games. That's what it's all about. It's about winning, and we've got a strong culture here at the moment about winning. We understand our game plan is based around winning. It's not necessarily a flashy game, but when we get our opportunity to attack, we certainly want to be dynamic and entertain the crowd. And we were in the top 4 try-scoring teams of the competition last year. So we're certainly there or thereabouts. We certainly want to improve our attack a little bit, but we don't want to lose that winning edge either.
And that's what Laurie understands, the hard stuff, that you need to turn the switch to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few elements of our game that we're going to change this year, and that's down Laurie's alley, and he's going to be a good motivator for the team.
As a forwards coach, are there a few better than Laurie in the world?
Well, I haven't seen a better forwards coach in the world. Yeah, very technical, very good motivator of players, no nonsense, very knowledgeable, very good to work with, really good ideas across the park, and all the players appreciate what he does.
And just on the dynamic nature of our forwards against, say, the All Blacks, who can play the football just as well as their backs. You must have been so satisfied to see something like Stephen Moore flick the ball out the back like a flying winger the other day. But is that without getting carried away, is that skill set something you want to add more to your forwards?
Yeah, I think forwards have to have those skills. I mean, rugby is about catching and passing. It's not, there's obviously the scrum and the line out where you've got to be fairly specific with your skills, but then majority of the game is unstructured play. It's from turnover, from counter-attack, it's from multi-phase attack. And you definitely need everyone in your team to have those skills. Otherwise, you become one-dimensional and easily defended. So it's something that we've been working on over the last couple of years. You know, we incorporate skills into just about every training session, whether it's backs or forwards. And we've seen the skill improve over the last 2 years, and we want to take it to another level, definitely.
Last question about the role of the media in the game. Rugby's sort of battling at the moment for hearts and minds in Australia. It's slid. There's no doubt it's slid in terms of ratings of popularity. How important is that part of the game, do you think, to you, or are you just coaching and that's it?
No, it's an element of the game that we have to consider, and I guess that comes down to the entertainment on the night, not necessarily the rugby itself, but everything around the game as well. But what we can do on the field is certainly entertain the crowd a little bit more and make the whole night or the whole day quite a spectacle for people to come and watch, and same for TV ratings as well, in terms of making it an enjoyable game to watch. Obviously more people are going to watch it.
What about the engagement midweek though? You know, you can have banter with other teams, you can talk about issues as well. I mean, it's probably a 7-day week thing.
Yeah, in terms of the media it is. Yeah, and getting out in the community. So, you know, we're very unique down here in Canberra in that we have a small community. It's a relatively large, small community, but it is a small community compared to the other provinces. And we certainly like to see ourselves as Canberrans, everyone in the team as a Canberran, and we try and get out into the community throughout the week, into the different demographics in the community, to share experiences, to have a laugh, to enjoy things with the local community, because we need that community to come and support us on the weekends. But also because Canberra is such a great town, so getting the guys to come down here and realise that Canberra is quite beautiful and it's unique, and it's a great experience to come and live here. And then there's the other side, which is the media, and certainly how would you say, you wouldn't say playing it up in the media, but being involved with the media, being open with the media, creating personalities and identities in the team is going to be important for us. And I think most of our guys, you know, over the last 2 years, they've appreciated how important the media is in getting the message out there that rugby is a wonderful game, that the Brumbies are a wonderful team, and that Canberra is a great place to live.
And last one, Laurie, can you blokes ever have a barbecue and a beer and not talk rugby?
Probably not. I mean, it's a big part of your life, and any coach will tell you that you've always got an eye and an ear out for somebody saying something or doing something. So it's certainly a central part of the conversation, and that's amongst the whole group here. So I think that's what makes it exciting, that it's never boring, and we're always looking to find a way forward.
Well, there they are, Stephen Larkham and Laurie Fisher, and just wonderful rugby brains. And you could sit there and listen to them for hours, but they are poles apart in personalities and interest-wise. I mean, they are two different characters. Can it work, Casher?
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? You know, Jake was overseeing a lot of things there, and Stephen and Lord Laurie were taking care of the details. So it's a matter about how they actually see the vision together about where the Brumbies team is going. And you know, the Brumbies team it's another year of transition. You know, they're developing, they're maturing. It's going to be very interesting to see. You know, there's all those sorts of things that need to go on. They've got to deal with the media. They've got to do this. They've got to do that. All those sorts of things. So it's going to be very interesting to watch, to see how it actually pans out. And anyway, winning fixes a lot of those things, doesn't it? And the Brumbies have been winning of late.
It certainly does. And the other great thing I found about it, they are very different. I've seen a couple of sessions now with Fisher and Larkham operating down there. Stephen's very good. They comment about understanding the role of the media, which is, I think, so important for him to sell what the Brumbies are doing. But one of the best guys in the game I've ever seen, just for pure good blokiness, is Pat McCabe, and he's had some dramatic issues with the neck, of course, and he's back and giving it another fist.
Yeah, it's great to see him back on the field. A lot of people thought he was sort of finished. A very delicate sort of injury. You've got to make sure that you're 100% correct before you're actually on the field. But he's going to add some thrust there. You know, whether that's at fullback, whether that's in the centres, or I think you noticed Bronk when you were down there. He was doing a bit of ball playing at number 10. So you know, they're trying to increase the skills, and that's what pre-season's all about.
Absolutely, Casho, and of course in the Northern Hemisphere, you know, Six Nations isn't far away, and we'll be catching up with Les Kiss again shortly to find out what Ireland are thinking heading into Six Nations, so it's going to be pretty interesting. England, of course, you can never discount them. Wales, they'll be hurting after the end of their year last year, and of course, who knows what France can produce.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it? And on top of all that, it's Heineken Cup quarterfinals coming up very soon. The 8 are through, so you know, Toulon defending their title. They look pretty good from what I've seen of them, but you know, that's not going to happen until April. We've got a Six Nations Championship sort of coming up. You know, is England going to come through this year? Ireland at different stages looked pretty good. Almost beat the All Blacks, as you remember there. Tell you what, that was an absolute tragedy. Old Les is still crying into his Guinness on that one. So, and you mentioned France before, and listen, they've been rocked by the loss of Thierry Dusautoir for I think pretty close to 4 months. So he may not even come to Australia as the captain of the French national side. So a lot of things to be played out, Six Nations in coming weeks.
Yeah, Six Nations, we always look forward to seeing that each year. And of course, Mark Cashman, before we go, there's some big news about yourself. You know, a long-time editor of Inside Rugby magazine and the Wallaby programs, and formerly the Waratahs program. You've now seen the light and moved on to the greater world of your own business. And I'm pretty happy to announce that for the first time today, that you've now launched a new enterprise.
Yeah, Bronk, Cash Cow Media Solutions. It's all about. So, listen, it's a daunting time. It's you know, after the safety blanket of ACP and Bauer Media for 16 years, it was sort of time to move on. And mate, I'm excited by the prospects of everything out there. Of course, I would love to continue to work in rugby, and rugby will always be part of both my personal and professional life. So we'll see where that lands. But first cab off the rank is a bit of publishing, Bronk, with a fairly major sport on the world scene, Major League Baseball, coming to Sydney on March 22 and 23, the LA Dodgers v the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we're doing the publishing and event program for that little event there. So very excited about what's ahead. So everyone out there, don't hesitate to call.
And the good thing about that match is it's a legitimate match in the ABL. It's not you know, an exhibition game, isn't it? The American Baseball League. It's out to play a fair dinkum match in Sydney.
Yeah, when I was overseas in October, I managed to catch one of the Dodgers games at Dodgers Stadium, and it is an absolutely superb event. And I'm sure that the organisers here, More Sports, are going to put on an absolutely superb job. They are the people involved with trying to get the Bledisloe Cup to Denver, Colorado, Mile High Stadium, which, as you know, is the home of Peyton Manning at this point in time, who's on his way to a Super Bowl. So yeah, listen, it's a great event, and I'm sure the SCG is going to be absolutely transformed into a Major League Baseball ground. So, mate, it's going to be a superb event. Get there and buy yourself a program.
All right, Casho, all the very best of luck, and we hope that it's a huge success. Of course, Mark Cashman's main duties will be with RuggaMatrix International, and we'll be here every week heading through 2014. All right, thanks very much for tuning in. Don't forget, you can get RuggaMatrix America on the website, and very soon we'll be talking RuggaMatrix Club Rugby again. Now, we're going to bring this show back in the wake of the ARU's announcement. There's going to be a new National Rugby Championship at the end of the year, and there's a lot of interest. There's so many people we can talk to in Clubland about it, so keep an eye out for that. So we'll be back with a vengeance in 2014, so make sure you tune in. All right, thanks to strike.com.au, our major sponsor. They have been fantastic and been with us now for a couple of years, and they will be with us for many to come. They are great rugby people. Until next week, enjoy your rugby, and we'll see you then.